Hello and welcome to the Charleston Explorer, a podcast for the Charleston visitor. My name is Evans Bird. I'm a Charleston native and a licensed tour guide with Peninsula Walking Tours. Today, we're going to speak with Michael Biondo from the Frothy Beard Brewery.
I love beer, yeah.
We'll also check out the headlines in history to see what went on in Charleston's history between the 1st and 15th of July. And we'll visit the old Exchange Building, Customs House, and Provost Dungeon and speak with Tony Youmans about this very important building.
I like to think, Evans, that's what I am now, a keeper of
and
the
I'm the
exchange.
ne'er-do-well.
But first, if you're wondering what's happening around the city with events and live music, things to do, well, let's take a look at the calendar and find out what's happening for the 1st of July, 2020. Live music Friday, July 3rd, and also Friday and Saturday, July 10th and 11th at the Firefly Distillery up at Park Circle in North Charleston. It's Safe Sounds. It's a 7-week-long outdoor summer concert series to bring the community together in a safe place to listen to live local music performances. Guests can enjoy the concert from the sprawling fields of the new Firefly Distillery to allow for safe social distancing. The events are 21 and older. To maintain social distancing, tickets are sold in groups of 4, and the 4-pack of tickets will secure you a spot in a 10-by-10 square separated from one another on all sides by an 8-foot distance. Friday, July 3rd, it's the Midnight City Band, and on the 10th and 11th, the Yacht Club. For more information and to purchase tickets, you can go to citypapertickets.com. Because of COVID-19, many of the 4th of July celebrations have been canceled, but Firefly Vodka is having a safe celebration with the 4th at Firefly Independence Day event. It's happening Saturday, July 4th from 12 until 7 p.m., featuring live performances. The celebration will span the entire 43-acre field, front porch, and 25,000-square-foot distillery. Live music performances by Haley Mae Campbell, Hans Wenzel, and the 86ers, and headliner, the Black Diamond Band. Music starts at 1 p.m. Tasting of Firefly spirits will be available throughout the day at both the indoor and outdoor tasting bars for guests to sample Firefly products. And you're also encouraged to book your tasting time ahead of the event. This is going to secure you a spot. Picnic tables are going to be tinted for shade, and the field's going to be open for lawn games. You can also purchase merchandise or Firefly hand sanitizer in the gift shop. This is a family and dog-friendly event, and it's also going to feature a beer truck with local brews, savory foods, including Braised in the South and Johnny Poppers, and dessert trucks, Holy Roly and Sweet Lulu's. Plus, you're going to get a ticket to participate in the hourly raffle for Firefly Spirits prize packs, including grills, rocking chairs, golf bags, and a whole lot more. For more information, visit fireflydistillery.com. Also on the 4th of July, you can board the Carolina Girl for a 3-hour patriotic sunset cruise around the Charleston Harbor. The Carolina Girl is going to depart from the docks at St. John's Yacht Harbor on Johns Island at 7 p.m. and return at 10 p.m. Boarding begins at 6:45. Tickets are $100 per person. You can bring your own small cooler. It is BYOB. Food and drink will not be sold on board. Tickets are available at evenbright.com. Every Wednesday and Saturday morning, the Charleston County Parks host an early morning bird walk at the Caw Caw Preserve, about 20 minutes south of the city. Birding starts at 8:30 a.m. Maybe catch a glimpse of some bald eagles and also the American alligator, which cannot fly, thank God. More information available on that at ccprc.com. On Saturday, July 4th, at the intersection of Broad and East Bay, the street will be blocked off for a tradition that I've fallen in love with, the reading of the Declaration of Independence. At 9 a.m., our mayor, John Tecklenburg, will read the Declaration of Independence from the steps of the old Exchange Building, Custom House, and Provost Dungeon. And finally, we just got to July, and if you ask a native, it's still not that hot yet. But if you want to cool down, the county parks are open at Folly Beach and Kiowa Island, as well as all the Charleston County Parks water parks. Splash Island, the Splash Zone, and Whirling Waters are open in North Charleston, James Island, and Mount Pleasant. The parks are operating at a reduced capacity, and so far, they've not met their maximum, so no waiting. You can find more information on the Charleston County Parks and Recreation website at ccprc.com. 2020 is a special year for us here in Charleston because this is our 350th birthday. When the settlers first arrived in the Carolina colony back in April of 1670, they didn't settle on the peninsula where downtown Charleston is today. They actually went up the Ashley River and settled at a place known as Albemarle Point, today in modern-day West Ashley. Back in 1970, on our 300th birthday, the city of Charleston opened up a park called Charlestown Landing, and today, it's a state park over in West Ashley, and you can visit the original Charlestown settlement. Now, when the original settlers arrived here, they brought with them building materials, defenses, and also recipes. Recipes for things like beer. If you're going to be visiting Charlestown Landing, well, you're in luck, especially if you like beer, because right across the street is the Frothy Beard Brewery. Today, we're joined by Michael. He's the general manager of Frothy Beard Brewery. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. So tell me, what got you into brewing?
I think the thing that brought me and my partners to liking beer was the diversity that we found in the historical beers that used to be brewed across, Europe. A lot of those trends moved over to America. There's been a couple booms of it, like late 80s, and then 2000s was really when it's really revitalized. Joey, our brewmaster, he was in Asheville living there at the time, and we went and visited him and a couple of the other breweries and just tasted so many different flavors, and that's what kind of like caught our attention to that we can make beer and have, cherries in it, or lime, or banana flavors, or chocolate, or anything you could probably think of. So it's been really amazing what you could do with beer.
Yeah, wow, it seems like Asheville's kind of a mecca. There's also Lo-Fi here, which he's from Asheville as well. He brews some pretty good beers. And I was in Michigan a few years ago, and when I was up there, that's when I was first introduced to the microbrewery, because they were everywhere all over Michigan. And I tried a wheat that had a banana flavor to it. And it was a Weiss beer. It was cloudy, but it was so good. And then we went to a place called Right Brain in Traverse City, and they had a bourbon oatmeal stout that was aged in Woodford Reserve barrels. It's the most incredible beer I've ever had. And ever since I've had stuff like that, I've not gone down the aisle in the grocery store anymore. I started buying growlers and things like that. You got some pretty interesting beers. What would you say is your favorite here?
My favorite right now is our Tangalorian. It's a tangerine sour, just real nice and light and fruity, and just a great refreshing beer for this time of year. When that's not on tap, I always come back to our Sip Sip Pass IPA. So it's just a easy drinking New England style IPA that we have all the time. So
I like to drink beers that you could chew. I like thick, heavy stouts, and you have one that really catches my eye, the Mermaid Milk.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting title.
Yeah. So it's a milk stout, and we wanted to do a coconut milk stout, and the mermaid stems from it's not necessarily a sea theme, but we have like our original logo is a guy floating in the ocean in a barrel, and so we figured who does he meet along the way, and so the mermaid was one character he met, so we named a beer after that. But yeah, coconut milk stout, great flavor. We've actually aged this one in coconut rum barrels, so it gives it a little more coconut flavor to this batch, and so it's pretty awesome.
Sold.
So, yeah.
What is a milk stout?
So we do use a little bit of lactose in it,
right?
In order to give it a little more of that creaminess.
Sort of the consistency.
Yeah.
I like the other names. You got Mark Likes Beer.
Yeah.
There's another good one. What was it? Cluster Shuck.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite names. What is Cucumber Time?
Cucumber Time, it's pretty much what it says. It's a wheat beer with cucumber and thyme added to it. So nice, refreshing, kind of like a alcoholic spa water, in our opinion.
Yeah, so, it sounds like it would be refreshing.
Yeah.
And what is it? There's also a watermelon wheat. That one I think my wife would love. My wife loves the wheat beers.
Yeah, we had an interesting name for that one, but it's just too long. It's the Infinite Seedless Watermelon, a Smashing Pumpkins reference, but
yeah, cool. You guys, you brew all your beer right here on site, right?
Yep.
And matter of fact, when you come in the front door, you'll notice behind the bar you can see all the equipment needed to produce this beer, and that room looks incredibly clean. Like you could eat off the floor. I guess you have to keep that because bacteria and other kind of stuff is going to affect you.
It's really important. I mean, sanitization is key to any good beer, whether it's the outside of the tank or the inside of the tank. And so we do try to do our best to just maintain a clean environment inside. There will be some dirty forklift tracks now and again that we got to mop up, but other than that,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so you can also, if you want to come here, have a few beers. If you want to eat, they also have Zombie Bob's Pizza here, and they got some. I love this. The bacon and Brussels.
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts on a pizza.
Oh, yeah. It's really good. That's one of me and my wife's favorite. Yeah. It's nice with the balsamic drizzle all over it. Roasted Brussels sprouts. Just a great all-around pizza.
It's really cool, man. All your signature pies. I mean, it's nothing is traditional, red sauce with mozzarella and pepperoni on it.
Not for the traditional ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd have to check out their menu, of course. We'll give you a link to the website as well, so you can check out all the different beers and things like that. I noticed over here, too, you have the Bindi Brewski Yoga.
Yeah. During non-COVID times, we do have yoga here every Saturday morning. We're hoping to get that back soon. I think we've been talking with Beth about that, trying to figure out how and when.
So this is yoga and beer?
Yep. You do about an hour-long yoga class, and then you come out and have a pint, and it's all included in the price of the class.
See, I thought that you come and watch yoga while you're drinking beer.
Oh, no.
That's something I could do.
No, we don't allow people to watch. You have to participate.
And with COVID-19 going on right now, there's a lot of restrictions right now. The city of Charleston is requiring that masks are worn inside. Of course, you can't wear a mask while you're eating. And I noticed your tables are spread pretty well far apart. You have outdoor dining as well, so you're fully set up for people to come in here and enjoy the place.
Yeah, we've been going through multiple iterations of how to run the business since all this started, but we've been doing our best to keep everybody safe and everything clean and sanitized and socially distanced, and just trying to have a good place for our patrons to still come to. So,
what's the address here? It's a Sam Rittenberg address?
Yeah, 1401 Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, Suite 1.
Okay. And so Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, if you do visit Charlestown Landing, it's the next major highway over. So it's in the old Ashley Plaza Mall years ago.
Yeah, it used to be a mall. Before we moved in, it was a church.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I still have the cross in my office. I couldn't get rid of it.
Well, there's a strip club in North Charleston that is now a church.
That's true.
So. Well, Michael, I appreciate your time and talking to us a little bit about your place, and people can stop by and visit. And your website is frothybeard.com. All right, thank you.
No, thank you.
Once again, Frothy Beard Brewery, located at 1401 Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, Charleston, right there in West Ashley near Charlestown Landing. You can check them out online at frothybeard.com. They're open every day of the week, Sunday through Thursday from 11 to 10, and Friday and Saturday nights from 11 until 11. Time now to review the headlines in Charleston history. During the 1700s, the colonists in South Carolina found that rice would grow very well in our humid subtropical climate along the Carolina coastline. But the European settlers didn't know anything about growing rice. Now, on the west coast of Africa, rice had been cultivated for thousands of years, and enslaved Africans were purchased at auctions in Sierra Leone specifically for their knowledge of rice cultivation. On July 1st, 1700, customs collector Edward Randolph reported that 330 tons of rice were exported from Charlestown to England and the West Indies. On July 2nd, 1845, Macon Allen, an African-American, passed the bar exam in Maine. He was one of the first black people to practice law in America. He practiced law in Maine and then in Massachusetts before moving here to Charleston after the Civil War to establish his law practice. On July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress approved the final wording of the Declaration of Independence. 4 South Carolinians signed that document: Arthur Middleton from Middleton Place, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr. from Hopsawee Plantation in Georgetown, and Edward Rutledge. He was the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence, only 26 years old. William Pitt the Elder, 1st Earl of Chatham, British Secretary of State, and then Prime Minister of Great Britain, was largely responsible for the repeal of the Stamp Act of 1765. This was the first attempt to impose a direct tax on the American colonies to help pay off the debt from the 7 Years' War. The act required all legal documents, permits, newspapers, and pamphlets in the colonies to carry a tax stamp. Parliament repealed the Stamp Act in March of 1766. When the news reached Charlestown, the Commons House of Assembly commissioned a marble statue of William Pitt. The statue of William Pitt was dedicated at Meeting and Broad Streets on July 5th, 1770. It was the first statue to commemorate a public figure in America. Today, the statue can be found inside the Charleston County Courthouse with a quote from John Locke, the English philosopher, behind him stating, "Wherever law ends, tyranny begins." After swearing allegiance to the British Crown, Isaac Hayne continued to fight for the Patriot cause. On July 8, 1781, Hayne was arrested by the British. Lord Rawdon, living in the Miles Bruton house on King Street, decided to make an example out of Hayne to send a message to the Patriots who, after swearing allegiance to the Crown, kept fighting for independence. Without an official court-martial, Rawdon ordered Hayne's execution. He was executed on August 4th, 1781. Hayne was held at the Provost dungeon at the end of Broad Street on East Bay. Today, you can visit that very dungeon in the Old Exchange, Custom House, and Provost Dungeon. And in a few minutes, we're going to speak with the director of the Old Exchange and Provost Dungeon, Tony Youmans. On July 9th, 1900, the first automobile was seen in Charleston. In 1900, only the rich could afford a car, and poor people had horses. Today, almost everyone owns a car, and only people with money own horses. July 14th, 1837, abolitionist sisters Sarah and Angelina Grimke of Charleston embarked on a lecture tour across Massachusetts. In Amesbury, they were challenged by John Page, a local man who had recently lived for several years in the South. He thought the slaves were no worse off than factory workers of the North. Since most of the people in Amesbury worked in shoe manufacturing, their remarks created such an uproar that Angelina agreed to a public debate with Page. And that's headlines in history for July 1st through July 15th. At the intersection of Broad and Meeting Street in Charleston is one of the most historic and most beautiful buildings in the city of Charleston. It's the Old Exchange Building, Custom House, and Provost Dungeon, built in 1771 by the British government. Joining us right now is the director of the Old Exchange and Provost Dungeon, Tony Youmans. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Evans. Thanks for the opportunity.
Tony is the director of the Old Exchange here in Charleston, and the Old Exchange is considered to be one of the most historic structures on American soil. Is that right?
Thank you. There are several different monikers for it. We will very graciously accept being one of the three most historic colonial public buildings remaining in America.
Right there with Faneuil Hall and Independence Hall.
Yes.
And a lot of stuff has happened in this building throughout its history. It's been here since 1771. And before that, there was another building here.
There was, as a matter of fact, the council chambers. There's several different versions of it, but it was a colonial structure that was completed very early in the 18th century, and then it's actually raised to afford the construction of a new exchange and customs house. The building itself is built from the ground up.
Right.
And so the cellar that's there today becomes a provost, a British word for jail, if you will, during the American War for Independence, the last 18 months of the American War for Independence. So about mid-May of 1780, after British occupation, after the siege of Charleston, a gallant defense, of course, was given by the Continental forces, but it was to no avail. The British were overwhelming. So they need a space to guard, originally to house bad British soldiers. And so they create, they take whatever building they want, and of course, they use this structure for that purpose. So it becomes a provost, and then the dungeon part of it comes just months afterwards, when the prisoners that were here, that were released to other individuals that visited the building, described it as dungeon-like conditions.
When I do my tour, I say that everybody's been held here from pirates to patriots.
Right, and that's absolutely accurate on the site. Pirates, of course, Captain Richard Worley's crew, and of course, Stede Bonnet, our gentleman pirate.
The gentleman pirate.
Yes, always a favorite. They are held on the site in that building that was torn down to build this one.
When someone comes to the Old Exchange, tell me what they're going to experience here.
This is such a fun building, and as you know, walking up to it, it presents such a handsome, handsome look. Whether you're coming up or down East Bay Street or approaching it from Broad Street, it's a gorgeous colonial public building, very true to its Greek Revival heritage, Georgian Palladian architecture. It is gorgeous outside and inside. We've got 3 different levels to tour. Upstairs, of course, the glorious Great Hall where so many important things happened that lead South Carolina into what becomes the United States of America. This is where we welcome our last royal governor, Lord William Campbell. Originally in 1771, would have celebrated and enjoyed the pageantry of being a part of the British Empire. This is where magic happened. This is where public meetings and those things start happening. On the mid-level, the exchange floor in 1771, all of those beautiful windows and doors would have been open. You had an open arcade. One of the facts that we discovered over the last 10 years was that the city of Charleston or Charlestown actually hired a keeper of the exchange because of the openness of the arcade. We had vagrants and other ne'er-do-wells that would perhaps enjoy a respite from the weather. And so a keeper of the exchange, I like to think, Evans, that's what I am now, a keeper of the exchange.
And I'm the ne'er-do-well.
Absolutely. So we do that. And so the exchange floor, you've got different interpretations, different exhibits that talk about that 249-year history. And then, of course, the cellar. The cellar of the exchange building is a very special place. People lost their lives there, but so many things happen there. And so we interpret all of that. And we do a half-hour tour, and we give our visitors a good snapshot of early Charleston, bringing them up to about 1780.
Now, so you talk about the exchange. What exactly is an exchange, or what was an exchange?
Well, the exchange was the name given for a government structure for the exchange, the bartering of goods, wares, wealth from the colony. So while money didn't really change hands here, bills of lading, taxes, and different assignments, schedules to ultimately, at first, the king and the British colonial government. And people have to realize also, and Evans, and you say this so eloquently too, that we were British colonials. You know, the people that were born in England are English. You know, those early Americans were British colonials.
Right.
And so we were the British colonial government. We were the individuals that built this building. Our taxes paid for it, not taxes from across the pond, as it were. So it was an exchange. It was an opportunity for a public reckoning, for government structures to be able to have some type of accounting for the goods being shipped. I will argue at some points it was 90% to 10% import. You know, the British are here, the English are here in 1670, and we are here to make money, as you know. And so religious freedom, all those things came along with that, but we were here to make money. And South Carolinians and these early British settlers were very good at it. They're going to cut down every tree, shoot every animal, and skin it and ship the pelts to England, anything to make, a nickel.
And so the major crops here were indigo, cotton, and rice. Right. And rice, I like to think, is one of the reasons this building was built here, because when people are sailing into this harbor, they're going to see this grand building here. And if you look around the window in the top of the building, on the front side of the building, which, by the way, faces the water and not Broad Street.
That's right.
There's rice carved around the window, showing that was our source of wealth.
Yes, we are bragging to you how we made our money. And, of course, millions of dollars were made. These people were absolutely the elite. And South Carolina, for a period of 80 years, was the wealthiest British American colony.
The customs collector in South Carolina in 1700 in Charlestown said that we shipped 330 tons of rice to England and the West Indies.
Yes, we fed the world with rice. So that Carolina gold was indeed gold.
So moving forward in history to around the time building up to the Revolution, a lot of stuff happened in this building. I know the Constitutional Convention was in here. President Washington has been here. So tell me about the colonial era as far as leading up to the Revolution, and what kind of role it played in the
My pleasure. In 1771, the building is brand new. It is a very busy center. On any given day, there would be 100 to 300 individuals, sea captains, merchants, townspeople here inside the building, talking about things, doing things, bartering, exchanging goods, talking about different things. And when I say talking, they're discussing political ideas, and they're discussing things that are significant in other colonies. Being the major seaport in the southeast coast, you've got newly arrived information. Before it's even made the print, you've got individuals that have learned and perhaps can use that knowledge to their own benefit. John Rutledge, our colonial governor, writes that when he is in Charlestown, he is at the exchange every day. because it's CNN, it's Fox News, it's MSNBC, whatever your vice was. So in the earliest days, though, in 1771, you would have come upstairs to the Great Hall for the purposes of entertainment. You would have come for chamber music, perhaps some type of concert, an opera, a play, a visiting theater group from Williamsburg or from some other colony. So it was referred to as the ladies' room, upstairs, because it was for the ladies of Charleston to entertain. Within 3 years, the Exchange Building is the social, economic, and cultural center of South Carolina. The name Exchange becomes just so very, very well known. It was, hey, let's have lunch. I'll see you at the mall. Everyone in South Carolina knew what it meant. I'll see you at the Exchange. I love when it's built also, it's described as an ornament on the harbor. And so it must have been quite a sight. We know that Josiah Smith, the traveler, when he reaches here, he describes in his notes just how wonderful a setting it was. So in those early days, we again celebrate being a part of the most successful and wealthiest British American colony. And then things start to change. December 3rd of 1773, a ship is newly arrived. Ships arrive all the time. Mm-hmm. But this ship, on that day, the HMS London, held on board 67,000 pounds of newly taxed East India tea. Now, we know what happens in Boston. We know what happens in the three other great American cities, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia.
Big tea parties.
Yes. The whole goal in Charleston was don't unload it. Don't unload it. Don't give them the satisfaction. So a public meeting is called for. And this public meeting, historians in South Carolina today recognize that as the birth of modern representative government. That is truly the birth, that meeting that happened in our Great Hall, because you've got true representation. And you've got people like me, and I might be a coopersmith. I might work down the street. I might work on the harbor. And I'm here at this meeting because I want to know, now, why am I going to pay more money for my tea?
Right.
And then you have the middle class, the merchants, the Rainbow Row. Those merchants are the middle class, and they want to unload the tea, consign it, and sell it so that they can start achieving their goal of being landowners. And then you have the plantation elite, and they're here at the same meeting with all of these individuals to discuss what else Parliament might be thinking. And so that meeting, that single meeting, that first meeting, is what really heralds the start of representative government in South Carolina. So we're really proud of that here. And then, of course, 1773. So 1774, July 6th, 7th, and 8th in the Great Hall, it's time. Another public meeting is held. We need to find people, elect them to represent us to go to Philadelphia to participate in that early Continental Congress.
Right.
And so we do that here in the Great Hall of the Exchange. And so we ultimately declare independence here. Independence is declared at a few locations, but formally here. And boom, now we go headlong into war, of course. We elect our delegates to the Constitutional Convention. We hold other public meetings here, but those first 20 years, Evans, those first 20 years of the Exchange Building's existence are unmatched by any other structure in the United States today.
And those, and 3 of those 4 delegates were held in this building as political prisoners. Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Arthur Middleton, arrested for signing the Declaration of Independence.
When the British do come back, of course, Carolina Day, we just celebrated it this past weekend.
June 28th.
Yes, the first major defeat of British forces land and sea. So such a significant day. It was heralded and celebrated all the way up until about the war between the states. And then after that, it has fallen to the side. But we celebrate it today, and we certainly celebrate it in Charleston. So the other huge items that happened, of course, in our Great Hall, of course, all the hard work for our United States Constitution is done in Philadelphia in 1787. We know that. The Articles of Confederation, they're just not working. If you are from the state of Florida after the American War for Independence, you might use Spanish gold as currency. You might speak a myriad of languages. You might enter into a treaty with France. South Carolina uses its own currency, its own form of British sterling. We don't have to honor that treaty that you made with France. And so is this a collection of independent countries, states, or are we truly the United States of America? So the question has to be determined. So each state must have a special meeting, a convention, to consider the question. The convention in Charleston was held here at the Exchange Building. Originally, it was supposed to be down the street at the State House, but a mysterious fire renders the building unserviceable. So this, of course, is where this incredible meeting takes place. So South Carolina votes overwhelmingly to join the United States of America in the Great Hall of the Exchange Building in May of 1788. We become the 8th state to ratify the United States Constitution. We are American after the, of course, surrender at Yorktown, and we are charged with forming a new government. And so this is the seat of government for South Carolina. This is City Hall. This is the district management agency. So the Exchange Building is, again, amazingly significant. And the beauty of that, Evans, is that here is where we celebrate, again, our being very much a part of the British Empire. So you have to understand that it was absolutely magical that it happened here, where we, again, were so much a part and an important part of the British Empire. So the symbolism of that so many things that made us Americans, that made the country, that made South Carolina's participation in the United States is I celebrate it every day.
Tony, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for passing this information on.
My pleasure, Evans. It was good to see you.
Good to see you. This is Evans Bird, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on the Charleston Explorer. Make sure you check back on July 15th for our next episode. And if you'd like to join me on tour, just go to PeninsulaWalkingTours.com. We offer 3 tours. There's the Jewel of the South, which takes you through the most popular part of Charleston, past Rainbow Row and out onto the Battery. And then there's Hidden Gems, which is a little bit off the beaten path. We go a little bit more to the west and check out parts of the city that not a lot of tourists get to check out. And believe me, it's some of the most beautiful homes and gardens you'll ever see. And finally, if you want to go before or after dinner, we do offer evening strolls at 5:30 and also at 8 p.m. Once again, that website is PeninsulaWalkingTours.com. And thanks for listening to the Charleston Explorer.